Hello everyone. I know it's been a while since I last posted any videos. I just want to clarify that I don't really work on like a schedule. How it works is really that I'm always listening to what's going on in this world, and especially in terms of how ready people might be for more things for me to share. Because as you can imagine, if there's hardly anyone close to me, it doesn't make sense for me to share more, because I would just be kind of talking to myself essentially, right? Um, I mean, it seems that there is some of you guys who might be interested or curious at least, and I appreciate that you're following and sticking around. But so I just want to say that I don't really work on a strict schedule. It's really just like depending on what's happening. Um, things like it could literally be nothing happening, or things could happen rapidly, right? So that's kind of how this works. And so in this video, I think it's about time for me to share a bit more about my journey, especially in relation to the role that music played in my awakening to God. So part of the limitation of trying to teach about the state of consciousness is that I'm more limited in how I can express myself through like video format and spoken words, right? This is like a kind of setting you could say that I'm bound to or limited by. I mean, I don't have to be limited by that, of course, but I'm saying this way of teaching, there is some limitation, especially at my current state. So if you've been following, you might gather that I lean more towards the feminine in these videos. That's kind of what makes the most sense when you're trying to teach about something or share information about something. You're trying to get people to listen to you and to be receptive to you. And so the feminine is more appropriate in those situations. And that's generally how I am as well when I'm interacting with most people in this world. But that's not actually how I am when I'm by myself. So, and that's part of why I want to share this music aspect, because there's a lot of this being that I could not express normally speaking in normal circumstances. And so, music is one way I could share with you what this state of consciousness is like and what it's about. So it's sort of in conjunction with something like Course in Miracles, although you may not see the overlap right away, right? That could be a very different kind of text to you versus what I'm about to share regarding what kind of music I listen to on a regular basis. Because it might surprise you a little bit, as people have ideas about what Jesus would be like. Like people have ideas, especially in popular culture. There's I would say there's a kind of representation of him that in general is more soft leaning and more feminine leaning, I would say. But that doesn't fully describe this being and what this Godhead is about. And so part of the reason I don't normally express that is it's not really appropriate, and it could cause people to not feel like safe around me, you could say, even if I were to express that. Like it's too much, basically. So normally I don't express that, but it's very much there in terms of what this mind is like, because there's a kind of magnitude to this mind. And so what I've discovered is that I can only, for now at least, I can only really express it through sharing music, sharing the kind of music that I love and listen to. And this is very much like just an introduction, because I'm going to only share a sliver of what I listen to, because I don't want to bore you with, a long list of stuff, right? That's up to you to discover, but I am sharing my favorite artists with you. And it's up to you if you want to look more into them. I imagine for a lot of you, you might not understand some of these artists right away. Like, I would say you would have to work up to some of them, especially the more like heavier ones, like more like metal and hard rock, like progressive rock. Like, you might not be at a place where you're ready for that. So don't be discouraged if that's not what you're into right now. But that's something you can work towards, perhaps with artists that you currently can't connect with, but you can slowly move towards the direction that I'm trying to point you to. And of course, I'm not forcing anyone to listen to, the music I listen to, but I'm trying to say that these are highly representative of my state of consciousness. They're literally like part of me, you could say, that I don't really get to express normally. And even more so than, you could say, psychedelic states that I had accessed. Now, psychedelic states has been profound in its own way, and sometimes I even combine the two, like music and psychedelic mushrooms, like when I was still awakening. But I would say that in and of itself is not quite enough to describe this state of consciousness, as far as what I'm finding. And so, since we have these amazing artists that, most of them are still alive, that I'm sharing with you, we might as well utilize those resources, right? Because the point is for you to learn, what there is still to awaken to, if that's something you're interested in, and what God is about, right? The point is for you to understand God. And so whatever means that takes, whether it's music, just art in general, spiritual teachings, right? Whatever means it takes for you to understand what God is, then it doesn't matter what format really that takes that the format that it takes. So again, this is more like an introduction. There's a lot for me to say about music and my journey, but I won't bore you with that right now. I just wanted to share some pieces to try to let you know that these are the kind of artists that are close to my state. And some of them, I've literally, traveled to a point where I became them. Like, I became the exact same being as some of these artists. I'll leave it to you. I'll leave it to you to find out who they might be. But for now, I'm trying to say that music played such an important role for me that I literally became these the minds of the producers, you could say. And as a result of that, allowed me to reach God. Just by soaking it in, you could say. I think the main problem is not that there's not enough music out there that is representative of this state of consciousness. That's not what I'm discovering. What the problem or barrier is that people might not be close enough to understand or appreciate these kinds of music, like you say more hardcore or high frequency kind of music. Then they tend to brush it off. Just like Course in Miracles, they might look at it and not quite understand what, there's not enough resonance, and then brush it off as a result. A similar thing could happen with music when I try to share it, or other people try to share it. And you probably already have favorite artists that you listen to or love, right? And I fully respect that. So it can be hard to try to look beyond the artists that you currently love and follow, right? It's almost like the same way with spiritual teachers. If you have some teachers that you really follow, that's all you look up to right now, then it's very hard for you to move on from them, right? Let's be honest. It's hard for you to move on if I'm telling you that that's what's going to lead to more awakening or more God. You're going to try to resist that. So a similar thing happens with sharing about art and music. So that's something to keep in mind, because you're probably not going to agree with what I'm sharing. And that's not the point. The point is for me to convey to you what this state is about through these pieces. And not only these pieces. This is a very small sample. And so, when it comes to mystical experiences, I would say music played just as significant of a role as psychedelic mushrooms. Because I was one of those people that didn't mind trying different methods. You could say, even coming up with my own. Because you could say music is not something you normally hear about, as a method of awakening, right? That's really what I'm trying to tell you or suggest to you, is that this could be turned into a spiritual practice. Because some of these musicians were basically my teacher. For example, like Frédéric Chopin, I would argue that he was my teacher, because I learned his state of consciousness through both playing and listening to his compositions. And so at one point, I literally, had this awakening where I was Chopin, like on mushrooms, as like literally that historical figure. And now, of course, that sounds like trivial, right? Because of course, you realize that I am you, like, I'm literally this other person. But it was significant for me because at the time, I was not able to find someone who could match my state of consciousness, who was like my equal. Like, I could not find anybody in this world that was my equal in terms of my state of consciousness. So literally the first person I found in this particular lifetime that was my equal was Frederick Chopin, who's not even alive anymore, right? So that's how isolating my journey really has been. It was quite isolating even since the beginning, because it was quite strange. Like, none of the piano teachers that I was taught by or I sought out were into it. They were not into Chopin pieces, and it's really because they were not conscious enough. And you can understand what I mean by that. That the further you go on this journey, because most people do not want to hear, because Chopin's music is like more down tempo, like more melancholy in general, as well as like progressive pieces. So this is like a repeating kind of theme in the kind of music I'm drawn to. And so there's only like a very small number of individuals in this world that can appreciate Chopin even. There's like the annual Chopin piano competition, but most people don't know about it unless you are actually like into it, basically. And generally, these are professional level musicians, or sorry, pianists. So not every musician understands Chopin. That's what I'm saying. Because when I try to share about it with other people, like I couldn't find anyone that could truly understand what I'm talking about. So it takes time to develop your appreciation for certain works of art. So I'm just saying that what I'm sharing, it's probably not going to resonate with you right away, most likely. But I encourage you to try to work up to it, if that's the case. Because it's really like, I don't see how there's another way around, where if you're unable to grasp or understand musicians at the top of their game, while thinking that you have found God. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's a similar thing with musicians as with spiritual teachers. If you want to get to a place of absolute understanding of everything, aka God, then it would make sense to shoot for a place where you understand every musician, right? Especially the ones at the top of their game. When I say top of their game, I just mean that they produce masterpieces that perhaps only a trained ear can like truly recognize. So again, some of these might surprise you. That's okay. This is just an introduction to help you understand this state of consciousness better. Because again, I can't quite express it normally in normal situations.